Okay, today we are going to be building a ladder for our '08 Sprinter as a part of our van build. We wanted to get a side ladder for the Sprinter, and the cheapest options are made for other vehicles, and it looks like you can just buy those for maybe in the $300 to $400 range and then kind of retrofit it for the Sprinter. However, I didn't really feel good about that, and they do make a rear door ladder for the Sprinter that doesn't even bolt into the vehicle by Prime Design. However, I didn't want a ladder covering our rear window. I just wanted that open for us to view out of. So it seemed like to get a ladder made for our Sprinter that was on the side, that's good quality, you know, you're looking at like an Illuminous for $750, and we didn't want to pay that either. To rectify the situation, we decided to build our own ladder. And after talking about it with a friend who pitched in some really good ideas, you know, we decided to go with building a ladder out of like EMT electrical conduit because of how cheap it is. And if it's the right thickness, then we think it can be just as strong. So we're gonna try that, and we'll see how it goes. Compared to the cheapest options, we're probably gonna save at least $150. And when you compare it to an option like Illuminous, we're probably gonna save, you know, a little over $600. So in total, it's $145. I mapped out the costs, and we'll get into more detail. So here are all the materials that we're gonna be using. I went ahead and I bought three 10-foot links of this 3/4 inch EMT from Home Depot, and each 10-foot length is about $5, so $15 altogether. And then I cut one of them up into these 13-inch rungs, and there's 7 of these altogether, and I'm kind of base that number off of the number of rungs that are in an Illuminous ladder. And in order to connect the rungs to the side rails of the ladder, we're going to use these T-connectors that I bought from Maker Pipe. And there's going to be no welding here. These are essentially T-clamps that will connect the rungs to the side rail. That's about $50. And then we're going to attach the lower and the upper parts of the ladder to the Sprinter, actually using a hardware kit that I purchased from Illuminous. So I just called them, and wasn't exactly all that forthcoming about what I was doing, but I asked them for just the bottom and upper kind of hardware that is used for one of their ladders that go with my year Sprinter. And they mailed that to me. That was $55. And I got this steel remnant for about $15 from a local metal shop. That's going to be welded actually to the bottom of the ladder, and then the bottom hardware will mate with that and be attached to the vehicle. So that'll all become more clear as we're doing this. But in a nutshell, that's how we're going to make this ladder. We're also going to paint it. It has a zinc coating on it, but for some extra protection, we're going to go ahead and paint this with some Rust-Oleum protective enamel. Okay, so we're going to start by attaching the lower bracket of the Illuminous hardware kit to the bottom of the vehicle and build the ladder out from there. You can see we have a few clamps here attaching this lower bracket down to this pinch weld underneath the vehicle. There's 3 holes. I'm going to pre-drill with a 1/4 inch drill bit into each one, and then in each one we will put in this 1/4 inch bolt with the washers and the nut. Alright, I'm going to tighten these down with a crescent wrench and I think this is a 5mm socket. Alright. Tighten these down. All right, we're gonna put a 90 degree bend in this pipe. I left a little bit of room for where the end of the pipe mates with the lower bracket of the Illuminous hardware kit, about an inch, and so that my buddy has a little bit of metal to weld with.
Have you ever done this before?
No, not at all.
You probably watched a YouTube video though, right?
Yeah.
Should be good, folks. Taking a look here. We're just gonna kind of move angle by angle for these bends.
You want this to be vertical. So here's the two side rails and the ladder here. I've got it propped up on some sawhorses. And as you can see, here's one of the ladder rungs, but it doesn't quite reach from one side rail to the other. And that's because that gap is made up for by these clamps. The T-connectors go in, the rung goes in about this far, and there's actually a small bump in the clamp that will prevent it from going in any further. Once the rung is as far in as it can go, the other piece slips on like a puzzle and goes right over. And it's going to be that same distance on each side. So that's about a 3/4 inch gap. That's about a 3/4 inch gap that's left there. So I measured the distance between these two rungs. I think it's about 12 inches. And I actually, I measured the distance between the two side rails is about 12 inches. The rung only needs to be about 10.5 inches when the T-connectors hold them in place. Here's my buddy welding a plate onto the lower sidebars so that it can attach to the bottom of the vehicle.
Right.
Here's the ladder so far. Shortly after starting this project, we decided to kind of base this ladder off the Illuminous design for the side ladders for the Sprinters. So as you can see here, at the lower portion of this ladder is pretty narrow. There's two supports that come up from this plate that actually attaches to the lower bracket of the car. And there is a second piece of EMT here that has a 90-degree bend in it, connects with this other side rail, and then curves upward and becomes the other side rail. So it's essentially a side rail and a rung, but instead of doing welds, we have these T-connectors all along the way. The bottom plate here is the only thing that's actually welded to the supports. A buddy of mine did this, and we drilled 2 holes in here which connect to the lower bracket, because the lower bracket that connects it to the bottom of the vehicle has 2 bolts that stick out like this. So they'll come through the holes, we'll fasten it down with some nuts, and that'll be in place. And I'm going to cut a couple of holes above these and just attach them, so instead of a single hole, it's more like a oval shaped hole. That way when we're attaching it, we can put some weight on the ladder, it'll slide down, and then we can fasten it in place there. You can see over here, This is where the ladder connects to the roof rails on the roof, and there's actually 2 L brackets that will come. Hey Rodney.
Hey, go on.
2 L brackets that will come and connect here. I'm gonna flatten these pieces out and drill a hole through it so that the L bracket will attach. Since this whole thing is kind of being custom made, there's a lot of back and forth. So I spent about an hour this morning going back and forth, putting this on the vehicle, looking exactly where the roof rails are, exactly where these side rails are along the roof, and then coming back, putting slight bends in it just to get it in just the right position so it hovers right above the roof rail. Yeah, so we've done a dry fit with all the T-connectors, and since it looks like it's going to mount pretty well to the vehicle,
It is good.
we are taking these off, and I'm going to reinforce each T-connector with some auto strength adhesive here. We have some of this leftover adhesive from Van Windows Direct. This is the same stuff we used to put on the window. So I am putting some of this glue on like this spacer tape, which doesn't really, it's not going to adhere it to the directly to the ladder all that well, but when I clamp it down, it is going to spread out under pressure and grab all the metal parts around it. So I'll have metal on metal glued together. So we got this lower guy back on. Now we're going to come over the top, and these T-connectors from Maker Pipe fit like a puzzle piece here on the side. So now that the lower one is in, we'll just put this upper one in. And then I'm clamping it down. And then coming with the bolt and the nut. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. The top of the side rails need to be bent a little further back towards me in order to be just the right height over the roof rails and connect to the L bracket up there. So I'm going to bend it back a little bit, just a hair. Alright, so we have the top of the ladder here, and I'm going to go ahead and make a cut somewhere beyond this last mark here, because these 2 X's is the part that needs to be flattened out in order for the L bracket to attach to the roof rail. So right here where we have these 2 lines with X's, that part will be flattened. So I'm going to go ahead and cut with a hacksaw somewhere out here, so we don't have all this extra pipe. So we're flattening this piece, and with Rodney's help, we got this sledgehammer. What do you call this back?
It's a sledgehammer hip.
Oh, okay.
That's a.
This is the head to the sledgehammer.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little 2-pound hammer hip.
And Rodney explained this to me, since both metals here have very little deflection, all the force is transferred to the pipe. And we'll just beat it in little by little. Surprisingly, it doesn't take that much effort.
Wow, I see it going, yeah.
Oh, I feel it going all into my groin. The shaking.
What a sensation! I'll never forget it.
Seriously. So the nuts that came with the T-connectors are not nylon lockers, so I went ahead and reinforced them with some leftover adhesive we had from doing the van windows. Okay, time to paint!
Woo!
Well, this is the 4th coat of black paint. I did 2 coats of satin and then realized I wanted it glossier, so now we're doing glossy. But this is it. Blinded by our zeal to finish, we installed this at night while the paint was still a little tacky. The ladder is complete. Here it is. Our van spot, I've been saying, has an earring. Definitely happy with the way this came out. If I could do anything differently, and it's still something I can do, is there's some small gaps between the T-connectors. Right here where the rungs are joined to the side rails. And I'm probably going to go back and fill that in with adhesive, some 5200 or something, just to seal that up and prevent like water and as much air as possible from getting in there, because the zinc is corrosive, and over time maybe it could corrode from the inside out since these rungs are hollow. But for now, it's fine, and really happy with the way this is looking. It's strong, it's sturdy, it doesn't really flex very much. I'll go ahead and take it on its maiden voyage real quick.